Hello, welcome to RPG with DBJ. And today, our last day of talking about your tabletop role playing game sucks, we are going to talk holistically about um, two very large tabletop role playing games capturing the attention of our community. And this desire, this trend towards mixed success, complication, narrative, um, adjudication, die rolls, all of that good stuff. We're going to get into it. So, guys, thank you very much for being here. Let's let the bumper go. All right. So, again, thank you very much for being here and being part of the show. We're going to talk about something we always talk about here on the show, but I thought I would bring this uh, uh, discussion more holistically, more generalized to the entire tabletop role playing community. And the Kickstarter, because I'm going to show this to you guys, the Kickstarter has just ended for Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere tabletop role playing game. And uh, putting it lightly, the mistakes that Wizards of the Coast has made with their ownership of the Dungeons and Dragons brand has, made many people who are, I'm going to call them luminaries in the tabletop role playing community. No, it's brand new. It's brand new. You want to see it again? No, I'm joking. Maybe at the end. Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit more professional here. Thank you there, Drew. The uh, this idea of mixed success, like the um, the crawler below. I joke about the yes no if and or buts mixed successes, and specifically Daggerheart from Critical Role and the Cosmere RPG from Brandon Sanderson um, are two of a number of, I'm going to say, geeky luminaries in our very small niche community that have drawn a lot of attention. Let's see if I go to the Kickstarter page now and refresh it. 14 million. You know what? I'll just put it up here. I like? Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I try to. I don't know. Um. I get in my own head sometimes, and it's better if I just go with my gut. So that's what I was doing. It's going with my gut. So this is the current page of the Kickstarter, Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter for the Cosmere RPG. It just ended. Yes, I did. I did back it. I actually backed quite a number of tabletop role playing games, and have had like 99.9% success on them. So it's reached just slightly over 14.5 million American US dollars, sorry. And it's fluctuating here and there. Some people are coming in from for the late pledges, others are maybe dropping out a little bit, but $14 million. I don't know the statistics, but I'm pretty sure it's broken at least one, has hit the top goal on at least one Kickstarter goal, if not breaking a number of them. And the Cosmere RPG, and then of course we have ourselves Daggerheart. Let's see if I can if I can play some Daggerheart thing here. Let's share this out as well. Throw in some Daggerheart here as well. And um, we on this side of the channel have zero problems with mixed success and failure role playing systems. And so we can get on the same page. Uh, this I'm calling it mixed success, and there are a number of ways that we describe it. Sometimes it's fail forward systems. Sometimes they're called narrative systems. Other times they have included with them partial success, partial failure, or There is success or failure with complication, and many independent games incorporate this. And I wonder, with Daggerheart having so many Critical Role fans who don't necessarily need to play role playing games, but they have been brought into the role playing game world with us. Thank you very much for being here. And fans of Brandon Sanderson's world in the Cosmere, and again bringing new people into the tabletop role playing industry, as well as the rest of us old farts that have been around. Is this becoming the new norm, that essentially you roll the dice or use whatever mechanism? It's 99% dice. We have cards that you draw, things like that. And in addition to the dice telling you whether you passed or failed a, a unknown quantity, maybe it's lifting a gate or intimidating a guard, or sneaking past an alarm system, or pickpocketing someone, or jumping across a crevice. And these are unknowns in tabletop role playing games we're very familiar with. And when many times when we roll the dice, whether we roll, a single, whether we roll a single six-sided, yes, this is a six-sided die on using a 12-sided polyhedral, but many times when we pick up these dice, it's usually pass or fail. We often know, okay, did the character succeed or did they fail in their action? And then now with these systems, Daggerheart uses a 2d12 system. Let's see, let's get some dice out here. This is a true. Let's see if my camera will pick it up or not. No, I'm a little too close. This is a true D12, and it uses, instead of rolling a die 20, it uses two 12-sided dice. One of the dice is noted as, actually, let me put up here. One of the dice is noted as hope, and the other one as fear. And then you roll both dice, and you add both dice together to achieve get the highest die roll desire you want. But whichever of the die, the hope or the fear die, which is a D12, is highest, you also, with hope, you have an additional positive outcome, and with fear, there's some kind of negative outcome to it. In the Brandon Sanderson version of this game, it is a D20 system. They specifically wanted it to be as user-friendly as possible. And for their game, they included something known as a plot die. And the plot die is semi-optional. I heard that they wanted to be used about 30% of the time. So about like maybe one out of essentially every three die rolls. And the plot die essentially is a D6. It's a D3 system, right? So you have a 1/3 chance of gaining an opportunity, 1/3 chance of just nothing happening, and then another 1/3 chance of a complication. And they do have a mechanism tied to it. Like if you roll whether you succeed or fail, you can still roll a plot die. So you could fail but gain an opportunity, or you could succeed and get a complication, or any combination thereof. And there are mechanical effects in the game. You can gain bonuses to damage, or you can maximize the damage that you do, or you could have something narrative could happen within the game. So that is my generalized rundown of like what is a yes, no, if, and, or but result. And I guess my overall question to the community is, not only do I wonder, is this the norm, but is this a normal human desire that is just becoming mechanized and written down, and we're just accepting it? Or dare I say, is this being pushed on us by individuals who are in the creative sphere that love narrative? We've seen this for a dozen years or more in other indie games. Are we as human beings and creatives just naturally inclined to want to have some kind of narrative outcome? I know many times when I've played D20 systems or single die roll systems, we naturally attribute a lower or higher result on the die as meaning something, even though mechanically it doesn't mean anything. So if everyone needed to roll 12 or more, including all their modifiers on a d20, we often look at like, well, if you rolled a 13, that's not as successful as someone who rolled a 17 or 18 on that d20, even though there's no in-world mechanical by the rules difference between either die. You either succeeded or failed, but sometimes we often describe it as, oh, I jump across the crevice, stumble, slide down, grab on with my fingertips, pull myself up, and then I keep going because I rolled a 13. Whereas the other character that rolled an 18 jumps across, lands on their feet, does a tuck and roll, does a parkour tuck and roll, and keeps running as if they've never stopped, right? And I, I I wonder if new players, meaning new to role playing in general, they've heard of Dungeons and Dragons, and they've seen the polyhedral dice. Yeah. It is will this do you think this will be a turnoff? For new players, maybe they've never seen anything, so it'll just be so all of it's brand new. So narrative dice or not, maybe it's just brand new to them. Is this something us old farts need to learn to accept? Like, hey, the next time, your next, I'm not saying the next 2024 Dungeons and Dragons rules are going to have this, but it's possible they could insert some kind of um, boon bane system. Hey, roll this extra die if you want to make more interesting outcomes, and that would be a very easy half-page thing to incorporate into the game, just like they did with inspiration. Drew says, as someone who also pushes that, it is clearly innate human desire. uh, Self-centered arrogantism. Anyone? No, I'm just joking. Because I'm into it too, right? Like my natural propensity in my head is to be more creative and have more complicated things. I mean, hell, when I played Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, when people got like critical hits and rolls, we used to come up with all kinds of like, what would be better, double damage or slicing the flying monster's wing off, right? Or cutting off their tail, or getting your spear or javelin jammed into the monster's giant maw, and now they can barely close their mouth, or your attack pierced open a scale and now there's a weakness available and now other people can aim for that spot to get past their armored carapace or something. I mean, we used to add all kinds of strange. You poke the monster's eye out, or they are choking and they can't speak, so now they can't verbalize or cast a spell or something. And slips, trips, and falls, as talking about OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Got to watch out for the slip, trips, and falls and things like that. People dropping things that are very important, like that ancient evil staff that the cultist was using to summon up the evil. Well, instead of just a critical hit and killing them, maybe they drop the staff down to where the heroes are at and it falls down at their feet. Now, we used to come up with so many things and it wasn't built into the game. We would just use it as, oh, you roll a natural 20, you got to get something out of it. Hell, I remember even coming up with the outcome, player rolled a crit, and in classic Dungeons and Dragons D20 systems, you then roll separate damage dice, which are unfortunately not modified much by the success of the roll. So they rolled a 20, then rolled. They were archer. I think it was like second level, third level, or something. They wanted to shoot the chieftain. It was like some kind of goblinoid, like orc chieftain or something like that, in the throat. And instead, I think they rolled like a d6, rolled a 1, added their bonus to it and then doubled it, and I think the total was like 4. And we were just like, oh, seriously? Like, we all knew that wouldn't kill the person. So I described it as the arrow slicing the throat past the throat of the chieftain, who was taken aback, and I made it an instant intimidate. Like, like the chieftain was like, holy shit, like, and start telling his people like to back the hell off. And then and the character that was playing, he was like shaking her head, like, oh, you're gonna give me something for it? And they're like, yeah, the next one's gonna go in your eye, buddy, if you don't back you back your people off. And we kind of flowed through it. And I talked about this in an old video. It's probably 8 years old or something. And someone was like, well, that's really cool. You actually gave them the success they were kind of looking for, even though it was a failure. And I think these systems are pretty good at being able to do that. And like Brandon Sanderson is an author, right? He's one of us. He's a geek. Whether you like his books or not, he's also, he produces a lot, right? One of the things that separates success and failure is actually doing the damn thing. And he's a writing machine, so you don't even have to like his stuff. The reason he's successful is because he produces, and he usually produces on time, often, and a lot. And if I may make a suggestion, please go to YouTube and find Brandon Sanderson on the YouTubes. Specifically, it's probably 3 to 4 years old now. But specifically, he did a lecture class for his college, and I think it's in Utah. And it's each is about an hour and a half long, and there's like 9 in the series, and it's about writing plots and magic systems and all that kind of stuff. It's free. You can find it on YouTube, but really great to listen to. And I that's how he caught my attention. It wasn't even him being an author. I mean, it was him being an author. I've never read any of the books, but I was like, oh, he's got this free class series. Let's take a look at it. So, moving to the damn old failed Baptist Mr. Show. Nah, you're all right. You're all right. I have a new intro and outro available, and I thought it would just be kind of nice and fun and cool. A little reminiscent of like Spider-Man through the in the multiverse animated series. It's a little similar to that. So Brandon Sanderson as a writer, and anybody that's a individual creator, whether you're a writer or script writer or movie producer or something like that, you always want your characters to have a lot of conflict. And what do the characters do to solve that conflict? And to incorporate that in his game, it is a D20. And as a matter of fact, it even mentions here, in the Cosmere RPG, when a character attempts something risky or dramatic, the GM can tell them to raise the stakes. That's when the player adds the plot die to their D20 roll. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're even rewording it as anyone at the table can suggest raising the stakes, and including the player making the roll. This is a special die that can add an opportunity or a complication to the result of a skill test. The D20 can also generate an opportunity on a natural 20 or a complication on a natural 1. So, minus the idea of raising the stakes, rolling a natural 20 generates an opportunity and a complication on a natural 1. And again, this is a very narrative kind of thing. An example that they gave most recently was like, hey, maybe you're trying to sneak past a guard, you roll a natural 20, you get an opportunity, maybe you're even able to pickpocket the guard and steal the keys or something of that nature. A complication could be you're surrounded by the 5 beastmen bandits or something, and you go to strike at them, but you also slip in the mud in the downpour and the rain, and you drop your weapon or something like that, right? Or one of the beastmen throws a rope or something and it grabs you around your arm, and now it pulls one. You're using 2 arms. You got a shield and a weapon in your arm. You tell me which one of your arms has been wrapped in the vines they use with a bone hook, and you tell me which arm has been captured or something temporarily or whatever. And they do have different variations of this. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, they talk about combats and actions, fast versus slow. Hell, we could even talk about the different initiative systems. But I just wanted to talk about the narrative portion of these games, and not us, meaning like us happening on this channel, but I wonder if these complications are going to complicate tabletop role playing, meaning like, will your average, do we think our average players are going to just ignore this stuff and go like, oh man, do I have to keep rolling dice and keep coming up with creative things and keep doing it? Or um, is this just a mechanized way of something we just knew naturally? I don't know. Drew says, I also have just watched that lecturing series and not read any of his books. Yeah, I haven't read any of the books. I'm not familiar at all with the Cosmere. I do know that Brandon Sanderson is a geek. He plays Magic the Gathering. He plays video games. He loves role-playing games. He, in his lecture series, he talked about magic systems, and he's even criticized himself in many of his novels. And one of the things that he likes to do is create magic systems. So, of course, when he makes a role-playing game, his role-playing game has many of, and probably will eventually have, all of these different magic systems that are either detailed in his novels or um, um, he will bring into the novels. Maybe something like, hey, it's not worth it to put it in a novel, but I'll throw it as canon into my role-playing game. And his magic systems often, if you follow his lecture series, uh, he says a good magic system, and when we say magic, we just mean like extraordinary abilities. So it could be like cybernetics or psychic powers or alien gifts or whatever the case might be, right? And in his case, he likes to have limitations and drawbacks so that the characters in his story have to overcome those limitations and drawbacks to make problem solving more interesting. One of the most common ones is something Pharaohmancy, Pharaoh Canny. I think it's Pharaohmancy. Brandon Sanderson, Cosmere people, please correct me in the doobly doo down in the notes or something. But it's the idea of controlling metals, and first the characters need to consume some sort of metal, usually as like mercury or zinc or something of that nature, and then they can control metal, and they can push and pull and move metals towards them or away from them. So one idea is, I guess this character has a coin, and they can use the coin and like make it fly and use it as a weapon and to plink things. And I think at one point the character throws the coin on the ground, pushes against it to allow them to pop into the air, like get a boost, a super jump into the air. And the reason why I'm bringing up his magic systems is because both the characters in the stories, I'm sure, and the way he describes them is that sometimes there might be a mixed success. Like a character might say, hey, I can control metals. I want the arrows, when they shoot the metal tipped arrows to fly towards me, I'm going to have like a anti-magnetic field around me or something that makes metal objects, move away from me, like the opposite poles, or is it the same poles of magnets? And oh, stop. Yeah, I consumed some metal, but I got over it at age 14. Yeah, when Kurt Cobain came and killed it all. Yeah, with some grunge. Yeah. Well, I guess you could take speed metal and death metal, and yeah, I've never been a huge metal fan. I've always been like I'm the proverbial corporate pansy metal person that listens to it because I don't know if I can take it all. But mercury tipped arrows would be awesome. Ooh, that would be kind of dangerous too, especially if consuming mercury is as dangerous as it really is in real life. Like, yeah, there's a shit. There's a role playing game where that's a thing. That consuming mercury gives you power, but it makes you sick. Anyway, but these mixed success and failures as a writer actually, yeah, hair metal. Don't make me head nod because I will knock myself out. I'm far too old. The gel in my brain can't handle the CTE, the yeah, the traumatic brain injury or anything like that. But uh, but as a writer, and then here over here in Daggerheart with a Critical Role, the idea of being able to mix a result of the characters to make it more dramatic, improv artists and voice actors all together, professionals, I think is interesting, and I wonder how much embrace this will be in the community in terms of, will this be far more complicated for us civilians, us noobs, when doing this over and over again? Will it be far more ignored? I wonder how much commonality between tables. Uh, One person goes into Daggerheart, plays with their group, goes to another group to play Daggerheart, and maybe they put far more. Let's share this tab. Maybe they put far more emphasis on hope and fear than one other table. Maybe one other table uses hope and fear very mildly, like, oh, you succeeded with, I'm sorry, you rolled the dice, success or failure, and the character gets either hope or fear. They might just go, well, we're just going to give you a base +2 or -2 bonus. That's it. +2 to damage, -2 to damage, +2 to whatever defense, -2 to your defense, whatever. And that might be just how they're like, we're not creative. We can't come up with these different hopes and fears. And yes, I believe they're incorporating mechanical features on characters. Like, hey, my spell casting character, if I roll with hope, I can recover one of my magic points. Let's say I'm just making that up on the fly, but I do know that they're going to incorporate this in the game. So yeah, for Darrington Press, it says, when it's time for game mechanics to control fate, players roll one hope die and one fear die, both 12-sided dice, which will ultimately impact the outcome for your characters. This duality between the forces of hope and fear on every hero drives unique character-focused narratives in Daggerheart. The 2d12 in their game replaces rolling a d20. The Dungeon Master, or they're not going to be called Dungeon Master, the Game Master, rolls the standard d20, but the players roll 2d12, which means that naturally they can roll above a 20, meaning they can roll a maximum of 24. But because of the bell curve of rolling 2 dice and adding them together, it's going to fall between, let's see, 12, 13, 14, I think is going to be the average die roll for Daggerheart. If I'm not a mathematician, so no. You're the groove guy. Yeah, I'm still a big hip hop fan. I'm still there. Side note, and I don't know why this is a side note. You guys have heard the funny ass dirty. I think they're almost a year old now. The AI generated songs. I know you guys have heard those AI generated songs. They are hilarious. I don't know why, but they are absolutely hilarious. I let's see. Let's see if I can find an image here. Oh yeah, I glued my balls to my butthole again. Yeah. um, Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I don't know if you've seen these things. Uh, Not exactly sure why I'm sharing this out to you guys, but yeah, from the Sticky Sweethearts. But it's I don't know why it's talking about music. What a segue. Hey, everybody. I know you're here for tabletop role playing games, but just in case you glued your balls to your butthole again, here's a tribute to that. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, um, uh, Drew says the average of 2d12 is 13. So, yes, 12, 13, 14 would be common dice results. Yeah, it just seems to be one of those things where, like, um, the propensity, like the in Daggerheart, whether you're going to roll very very high on your dice, you will tend to roll higher than you would normally roll on a d20 on average, and also it also means that if because of the fear and hope business, that characters will tend to succeed more often than fail, but their lives will constantly be complicated how the hope fear interacts in the game, right? Um, yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah, own reader. Yeah, so the AI generated dirty songs. I wonder how they did it. I mean, like, did someone write down the lyrics? Like, hey, if I throw these words into an AI generation system, will it come up with the lyrics, or did someone like write it down and just say, hey, rap music around these lyrics, these 12 bars or 14 bars or 16 bars or something like that. I don't know. Um, I also would like to find out from you from the community when it comes to like narration, like complicating a success or failure. Um, are are any of you naturally inclined to do such a thing? Like, is that your natural outcome? Like, it doesn't matter what system you're using. Do you normally think of, hey, I wonder what complications would happen? Or, like, even if it's not you rolling the dice, but someone goes to perform an action like the classic sneak past a guard. And in your mind, are you thinking of like television and movies where, I don't know, a cat jumps down and knocks over garbage in an alleyway that makes noise and causes a guard to look down the alleyway, but misses the hero, or the guard is snoring and wakes up slightly, seems to look towards the hero, puts their head back down, and then starts snoring again to make it a funny scene or something. Like, is that a natural thing to you, or is coming up with complications a chore? That, yeah, some things you can think of, but like on the fly, it's like, yeah, I'm not that creative. I can't think of. I mean, yeah, he's stuck past the guard. I don't know what you add to it. Yeah, I don't know. You see a post-it note that gives a computer code to get into the computer system. I don't know. What do you think? Um, and also, are you stressed out about the thing? Right? Is it natural to you guys, or is it like, yeah, I can come up with something, but I hate the idea that I'm forced to do the thing on the fly when trying to attempt to get that thing done, right? Like, yeah. Drew says, no, I don't think in visual media terms, but more as in books. But yes, I think about what could happen. See, I'm the opposite. I'm a very visual person. So, and mind you, I do read books. I'm not that far gone, but like I do think of complications, not all the time. I'm a 30-40% of the time, like, yeah. I do know that there are times when I don't want complications because it's not even like there's no point to it. Sometimes we just are like, yeah, you succeed, move past this move past this scene because we already know you've succeeded. All of our heroes in this medieval world are traveling on a trade route, but there are enemies of the state, and I mean, there are enemies that think we are enemies of the state, and we just want to sneak past them to keep on moving forward. I would just be like, okay, make a roll. Great, you sneak past the the armed troops on the road, and you just keep on going. Does it need to be complicated? Maybe not, because maybe you want them to hurry up and get in front of your adventure, and complicating it might just make them get distracted. And so I could see that being a problem. Yeah, I'm with you there. True's like hell. I let the players not even roll when I see no complication that could happen. Exactly. Uh, I and I think this. I think the complicate like the here the this opportunity die. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's called a plot die for Brandon Sanderson, where you can gain an opportunity or complication, and then in Daggerheart, the hope or fear. I think unconsciously, the way they've described their game systems, it I I wonder if it will reinforce the don't roll if the roll doesn't matter kind of thing. Like if your character is a master criminal and thief, and you walk into the town square, and I say to you, you notice the street urchins pickpocketing people, and your eye naturally goes over to the one or more, I don't know, ringleaders that are in the corner of the town square and bazaar, and you meet their eye, they meet your eye, they give you like the little chin head nod, knowing that they know you know they know, but you haven't said anything and they haven't said anything, right? Like that could be a die roll, but did it need to be? And I wonder if this will unconsciously reinforce don't bother rolling if you don't need to, because then it will complicate things, and then the complication stresses us all out, and we just want to go past that part. I don't know. Drew says, in my own system, turn and my own system, turn that on the head. You roll first, and then you decide yourself how that negative result manifests in play. I wonder also, will that be a thing? That's a good because we don't do that, and we should, I think, but we don't do that with charisma, social interactions, right? Like meaning, um, I want to go up to the guard and socialize with the guard to allow me and my party to pass through. And normally we don't stop to roll the dice first. We continue with the conversation. Hey, city guard, looking at us strangely because we're a motley crew of people armed to the teeth. We don't mean any harm. You should let us go into the town and into the city state. And this simple situation I always make up for these examples. And the player could come up with the greatest argument, roll the dice and fail, or maybe the player is kind of shy and awkward, like many of us are socially, but their character is very charismatic, and then roll the dice, right? And normally, like in combat, we don't say, hey, I succeeded in cutting off the bad guy's head. Let me roll the dice and see what happens. Normally, we do that first. Yeah. And yeah, the Shy Squad even says critically failing in social interactions is a thing, that is, and it's true, right? And also, um, you hear me talk a lot about context, right? And sometimes, especially in movies and television shows, and in books too, sometimes success and failure has nothing to do with the character's ability to do the thing. Sometimes it's an outside source, right? You want to go to the guard to convince the guard to let you through, but then all of a sudden somebody else commits a crime, and now the guard is like, no, 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 everybody stay back, we're shutting the doors, hell no, I'm not letting you in. And the PC is like, oh, I just had him, but now all of a sudden one of those street urchins pickpockets the wrong person, right? And now the town guard are on high alert, and they're looking around at everyone, and then their eyes fall on the player characters because they look odd, even though they haven't done anything wrong. Um, the proverbial sniper that has their target in sight, and all of a sudden the target reaches down because they dropped something, or their shoes untied, or one of their aides taps them on the shoulder, and even though they've been walking at the same pace, they instantly stop, turn their head to look back, and then, oh shit, maybe that's a little close to reality. But you get my point, right? Like sometimes a complication within the context of the scene might not have anything to do with the player's capabilities. Like, oh, you failed because you suck. No, maybe something else happened, a car accident, um, uh, two people are arguing in the town square that draws your attention and everyone else's attention, which distracts you. Someone bumps into you and you drop, I don't know, your ill-gotten gains on the ground, and everyone looks around you because you just dropped a whole bunch of treasure that you were like stuffing up underneath you while you were trying to like get out of there or something, right? And it wasn't you failing and stealing it; it was somebody else bumped into you, and you weren't expecting that. Um, and I, like I said, I'm naturally drawn to those things, whether they are comedic or dramatic, or they can be emotionally sensitive. The sniper that doesn't want to shoot because the person bends down and they are, I don't know, taking a tissue and wiping the snotty nose of their child, and the sniper's like, ooh, I don't want to take the shot. They're actually taking care of their kid right now. Oh, do I really want to do that? And then, of course, across the radio it's like, take the shot, take the shot. You gotta take the shot. And then that becomes a bigger, story element or something like that. There's a John Woo movie about a hitman, an assassin, and the hitman assassin accidentally blinds a young, beautiful woman who's also a accomplished musician. And when he draws his weapon, he takes his firearm, and the firearm's um, backblast, the sparks from him shooting the gun, blinds the girl. And then the assassin who's going to retire must go on one more mission because he's trying to earn money for her surgery that will bring back her eyesight. She does not know that the assassin is trying to do such a thing, right? And maybe the woman would have never shown up unless the dice showed that, hey, assassin, yes, you murder killed your subjects, your targets, but complication wise, and then you blind an NPC, and then maybe that becomes a new story element, and maybe we would have never known about such a thing until that thing actually happened. Um, and so, yeah, I wonder if this is just going to change how we interact with games, and change how the will this sweep across some of our older games? Like, will Tales of the Valiant incorporate this maybe at one point? I know that Advanced A5E, Advanced Fifth Edition, uh, has a makes a more twists on inspiration. As a matter of fact, inspiration itself in Dungeons and Dragons, when they incorporated in 2014, was trying to emulate what was being done in the indie scene in the first place. And I keep calling it indie, small pub indie. Yeah, they're all kind of small, but to be honest, like, is it that independent when you have like what's the new game now called? It's not called MCDM any longer. It's being called Drawn Blade. Yeah, Drawn Blades. Let's see if I can find it here. Drawn Blades. Blades MCDM RPG. Let's see if we find anything. Drawn Steel. Shit, I did mess it up. It's Drawn Steel. And let's share this out. It's Drawn Steel. Yeah. Not Steel. Steel. Do they have an image for it? Yes. Yet. It's Draw Steel. Jeez, my brain. Okay. Before everybody screams at me and puts me on the naughty list, it's Draw Steel. Draw Steel. Okay. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's very recent. I'm. Let's see if I can. Let's see. Um, let me click this. Draw Steel playtest rules review, July 27. So yeah, it does. It now has. I just found out the name maybe a day or two ago. I was listening to Intricasso talk. He was being interviewed or something. I think by Ghostfire Gaming, and I was listening to their podcast. So yeah, Draw Steel finally has a name, and it's so funny because yes, we understand that these things need names. Like Black Flag was the placeholder name for Tales of the Valiant and such, but it is kind of funny, like how easy we just get used to the thing being what it is first. It's it's like a what's the term? A rose by any other name is still a rose. And it's like, yeah, but if it was called something else, we would probably call it to something else. Because the minute someone started calling it a rose, we would probably be all pissed off. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not called a rose, it's called a wifflewogger, right? It's a wifflewogger flower, and it's always been a wifflewogger. And I mean, I'm sure many people are going to keep calling it the MCDM RPG, or like the Koval RPG, But yeah, it's called Draw Steel. And pretty hilarious that we do that. Yeah, Draw Steel is probably the most Matt Colville name ever. Yeah, they explained how they come up with these names like Flea Mortals and oh, what's the other one? I can't get up because I have to walk to my man cave to get it. But I've got two of his books, three: Strongholds of Followers, Flea Mortals, and another one of the other monster. It was the other monster book that was attached to it. Uh, oh, no, not die. Something. Oh, I can't remember. But they are like they seem to be exclamation point names. Like it's not just a name. It's a declaration, right? It's like flee mortal, draw steel. Like it's like it sounds like a name that you would say with gusto, and maybe that's what they should go with, right? Like that's not a bad naming convention if that's what you're going to do with all of your stuff. Sometimes the simplest thing is the best thing, and I fail to do that all the time. Uh, yeah. Oh, I didn't write down any questions for this narrative. Should there not be narrative thing? I wonder if there's going to be a a third party market for these games, because now we're getting to the point where let me go back to the Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to go back to see how if the money's changed a little bit. So let's see, share this out. And yeah, it's still at 14 million. It's not going to move from there. But I did see that we have, I think there were like 53,000. It was like 82. So we're increasing in the number of backers by, you know, a few dozen or more at a time. I'm sure the success of it may even bring in another couple of hundred more people into it. And mind you, there are going to be people who are going to drop out and things like that. But yeah, it's sitting at just slightly over $14.5 million. And um, with this, I wonder if it's going to make a third party market, cards, dice, random tables of suggested materials for what a narrative outcome could be. For example, you could write I'm literally, someone could steal this if they want to make this instead of myself, but someone could come up with like, hey, Brawlhammer. Yeah, that's true. Yes, for those who do not know, let me make this even bigger. For those who do not know, the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere role playing game has the Kickstarter has stopped, and it has crested over $4.5 million, $14.5 million. I guarantee you, it has broken multiple multiple records. Whether those records are like highest Kickstarter, highest role playing Kickstarter, the most in a few days, etc., etc., etc. And 53,000 people in change are into it. Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if the third party market, like I was saying with this, uh, he has the plot die, and you have two outcomes. You have opportunity and you have complication. With Daggerheart, you have hope and fear. With shit, do I have Blades in the Dark here? Yes, I do. Um, uh, let me go back here with Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is an indie published game that is well liked, even though this is I mean, it's a little bit of a tome, and I 325 pages long. You know, rules light. This is a rules light game. A bunch of d6s. Let's see. Get ourselves about like let's see if I can hold them up to the camera. I've got my d6s here in my hand. You only use up to four of them. Normally, you're only rolling like two or three at a time, and that's it. And then the rest of this book is just details on what it means. What does it mean when you roll these dice? What's the complication? What is the threat? How do we add to it? How does this you spend your stress? Flashbacks and all that kind of stuff. And it's yeah. Yeah, the pressure is on now. For $14 million, expectations are going to be sky high. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's an expensive Kickstarter too. And I don't mean the money earned. I mean the the base levels of this Kickstarter are very or are were very expensive. So if I can go down, let's see. Hold on. Sorry, let me leave this here, and then let's see if we can get the show you the levels. Yeah. Adventures of Tony says Candela Obscura is similar to Blades in the Dark, with 4 or 5 on a d6 equals mixed success. Exactly. And I wonder if I'm yes, I keep saying the same question in various iterations, but I do wonder. I really am interested in, like, could a third party creator come up with like a deck of cards or a thin booklet that just talks about, hey, when you're in melee combat, here are some examples of opportunity and complication, or success with failure or failing forward. And for people who aren't maybe um that savvy in terms of coming up with random things on the fly, because maybe they're not that creative, or maybe in their game, maybe their game is they're playing in dark horror versus jovial high fantasy, and maybe your complications need to reflect the themes of how you're playing your game, so that um, if your game includes strong interpersonal connections and romance and connections with NPCs. Remember, I was talking about the John Woo movie where the hardened assassin accidentally blinds the NPC woman. Of course, she's beautiful and a musician, and he wants to go on another heist, one last mission to um, give her surgery so she can see again. Maybe that wouldn't have happened except for the complication of the dice, and maybe that wouldn't have happened in a gritty horror, but it should. It's the kind of thing that should happen. That it's the propensity that we want these things to happen in our game if we're playing in a more um, in interpersonal relationship, tangled web of desires and unrequited love in our action role playing game, and we want to use those narratives to make that happen. Someone could come up with a book and go, hey, is this going to be more gunslinger, Wild West kind of thing? Here's some opportunities and complications to have a thing happen. Maybe a wanted poster shows up, or um, a bandit gang who you had a relationship with just shows up by accident or something. You're like, oh, I would have never thought of that, but on this random book. And I'm just thinking of third party materials. So let me go to the pledge levels on this. I'm going to hit back this project just to show you the pledge levels for the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere book. So of course we have the pledge level $1. You can just support it, and then it jumps to $60 for the e-reader versions, the PDFs, and you get any two books for $60, digital only. For digital, it's a little bit high, and that's only 1,209 backers. And then we go to the pledge, which is $95 for the reader. So you get any two books and their PDFs, and that's 95 US, and that's over almost 6,200 backers. And then we go to the player level. And on the player level, it's 195 US. So you get the Stormlight World Guide and Handbook, Mistborn World Guide and Handbook. You get Stormlight Basic Dice Set. You get a plot deck and the PDFs included with the books, and that's $200. $195 plus, I'm sure, some shipping in there, and then that's a 57, almost 5,800 people, and then for $295, you have the Game Master set, which includes the Stormlight stuff, plus a World Book, Handbook, Adventure, and Dice, and a GM screen. And then you get the Mistborn Handbook, World Guide, and Legacy Adventure. So you get 2 adventures, 2 world books, 2 handbooks for running the game. You get a dice set and a screen, and you get item cards, like I guess they're like magic item cards, punch card tokens. You get adventure maps, plot deck, a 0 level guide, and the PDFs for the game, and that's almost $300 right there. And guess what? If I can zero this in, I wonder if you guys can see this. It's a little bit hard to see this. 15,640 backers backed at the $300 level. 15,000 people. That is, those aren't just role players. Those are people who are like, I'm a Brandon Sanderson fan, and I want everything he has, and I want to sit on my shelf, and right? Like, that's, I didn't go for that one. I went for the $200, the $195, and then of course we have the $385 one, and 16,000, almost 17,000 backers. I know it's very difficult for you guys to see this, but I'm going to circle it with my cursor finger. Yeah, I'm going to point at it with my finger. Almost 17,000 backers backed at almost $400. And that's the collector edition. It includes miniatures, liquid core dice set, basic dice set, adventures, world books, handbooks, item cards, tokens, maps, plot deck, 0 level guide, and PDFs of everything. And then, of course, we have the $400. It goes up just a little bit retailer package, and there's 248 backers for that. It's 4 of each of the things, basically times 4. $400 times 4 for everything. So let me go back one, and then I'll get to your comments. Sorry, can't see them at the moment. Let's see if this has changed a little bit. Yeah, see, it went down backers. There it goes. It just went up by 3 since we've been talking. I thought it went down. Boop, boop, boop. I'm with you. Hey, $60 for a PDF. Ouch. Yeah. I'm with you. $60 for a PDF. The price of books I get, like for 2 books for $100. Okay, $50 for 2 books plus the PDFs. I get that, because $50 to produce a book. I'm sure Sanderson is although he's a self-publisher, he will produce books on a level at which you can bring the price down, because he's going to produce so many of them. But yeah, it is expensive. Oh man. Adventures of Tony says, I'll wait for actual plays so I can see if the system is something I would vibe with, considering I never read the books. Okay. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Mufa, hey, thank you very much. Good to have somebody in here who has a more accurate and different opinion of it. But anyway, Adventures of Tony says, I'll wait for actual plays so I can see. if the system is something I would vibe with, which is very important, right? Um, yeah, Mufa says, Mufa, thank you very much for popping in. I know you're hanging out in the background. Says, yeah, I backed at the maximum level, excited for the game and love the books. I'm assuming you mean the novels, the books, because they are already out. We'll have to talk about it. Brian says, wow, oh, that's a little bit of a burn. I honestly think that if George R. R. Martin tried to do this with his IPs, I don't think he would pull 14 mil. This is wild. I think it's because Brandon is one of us. Meaning, like, you don't have to. I know there are people who don't like his books and maybe feel little bit weird about his opinions, but and when I say opinions, I don't mean anything controversial. I mean just in general. Sometimes I'm sure my vocal intonations, my appearance, my the way I run this channel rubs people the wrong way, and they're just like, I'm out. But I am one of you guys, right? Like so I think Brandon Sanderson comes across as one of us, and I think that's what it is. Negative Space says, I don't know what Cosmere is, but I'm seeing a lot of videos pop up about it on YouTube. Yeah, it's very much the coming across to us across our spheres of influence, because I knew about Mistborn. I knew about the Cosmere. I knew all about it. I felt a little behind because I would have to like, I would have to listen to the books, and I wanted to know if I should get them on Audible, I remember one of the great things he did was he didn't agree with how Audible, which is owned by Amazon, was paying the creators, and he refused to put his books on Audible unless they changed the distribution of monies to the writers and creators. And Amazon changed it because of Brandon Sanderson. Now, mind you, they may have wanted to change it, or he may have been the most vocal and influential person to bring up this subject, and Amazon might have been on the fence about it. But for whatever reason, he vocalized it and they changed it. So a lot of writers really are like, Brandon, I don't care if I've ever said I hated your books. I love you, dude, because there are some writers who now on Audible who are getting paid more money. They're getting a higher distribution, and that's not bad. Princess Barhammer says, yeah, agree there. Like, his writing style doesn't always jive with me, but he is part of the community. So I think and also, let's be honest, right? When you are a social media personality, myself, people who put themselves, um, record themselves, live play. They're constantly tweeting. They're constantly on Reddit. They have videos. They're on Twitch. They're on YouTube. When you put these things out over and over and over again, um, it's very difficult to represent yourself artificially, because then it becomes a full-time job. You literally have to put on a persona. So what ends up happening is your real personality will slip out more often than not, as well as the fact that a person that comes out and goes, yeah, I wrote this book but I didn't like it, or a person that comes out and feels like their value added, I think gets a lot more attention. I mean, the fact that he's doing this role-playing game, before that he dropped like 5 books. Like, he had a Kickstarter, non-tabletop role-playing related, where he was like, yeah, remember the pandemic? Well, I decided to sit down and write my ass like 5 books. So everybody that's like wants to be part of my books, yeah, I dropped 5. Be part of the Kickstarter. Take that, mic drop, right? Where there's some writers, you may love them, but it takes them a shit ton of time. Every 2 years they put out a book. Every 3 years. He was just like, I'm a workhorse. Yeah, yeah. Gigi Sanderson for that? Not sure what that means. Negative Spaces. I don't understand and don't like why Audible is so expensive. Why is an Audible book the same price as a physical book? Yeah, you're speaking to the choir. I don't have an Audible account, and I want one because I want to. So So I get on YouTube, and people who upload Audible books, I listen to them that way. But yes, there's no reason to pay $15 for an Audible book, and I get it. Someone has to read this book and be paid for that. But oh, good game. Oh, or congrats to Sanders for getting Audible to change. Oh, okay. I'm an old man. You're gonna have to just bear with me. What am I? I'm 53. So what does that make me? Am I Gen? Am I millennial? Gen X? Something like that. I can't. I don't remember what category. I'm on a cusp. But yeah, listen. I'm at an age where there were like five different ways to listen to music came about through my era. Um, 8 tracks, 45s, 33s, iPods, cassette tapes. Yeah, Gen X, right? So you're gonna have to bear with me. Hey, listen, beepers were brand new in my era. Hey, you young folk, get off my lawn! Any, anyway, guys, thank you so much for letting me get a little bit squirrely on the show. You think I'll be a core Gen X? Core Gen X? Okay, all right. I never attributed myself to that kind of thing because I'm so friggin' nerdy. It's crazy. But yes, narrative. Yet yes, no, if and or buts. Partial successes or failures. Like, you guys, let me know. Is this going to be a real thing? And $14 million. Um, from what I understand, statistically speaking, let's see if there's a way to show this. Statistically speaking, right now there's 53,000 backers for this. Let me see if I can find Kickstarter. I'm gonna try to look up. I believe it's. I'm gonna do a comparison, a mathematical comparison. Um, Avatar. Oops. I'm gonna look up Avatar. See if I can find this here. What was the name of the Avatar role playing game? Does anybody remember the name of that one? I'm trying to. Oh, it won't let me go back that far. Hmm. Uh, Negative spaces. I've heard that there are websites out there with recordings of books that are no longer copyrighted and can be downloaded for free, but I don't remember the names of any of them. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, listen, listen. You guys have pets like cats and dogs and fish and birds. We we had Tyrannosaurus rexes, and listen, when they drop a when they drop some soft serve on your carpet, yeah, you're gonna need like all your friends and relatives and a bunch of shovels. I'm telling you. Yeah. Princess says, "You're Gen X, but you have enough of a millennial vibe that we are putting a generational claim out. One of us, one of us." Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, hilarious. Yeah. I do agree with you there, Tony. It's a lot to choose. Like, I'm interested in the world building. Like, I'm not just supporting the game, which is a version of a D20 game, but I actually want to know about the world building. I'm like, do I want to get into the books and the novels and stuff? And I'm like, oh, why can't you just get a world primer? Sure, I want to learn about this. So I'm actually supporting it on that fact. And I do agree. I have a channel where I do talk about role playing games, so that helps. But I'm like, yeah, let me get in on it. I got a little FOMO. Oh, I'm suffering from a little FOMO, fear of missing out. Nerdy is the term inferiors use to denigrate elite intellectuals. Okay, all right, nerdy and geeky. I, I will agree with you. Um, Tony says I would agree. I would argue that D&D DMs already do complications by setting tiers to most with a roll. Yep. For example, the CR is 10, but if you hit a 15, there's a bit of opportunity there. Or if you hit a 2, oof, that's a hard fail, but not a nat 1. And I think we do that naturally, right? Heck, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons already does this, which as a designer, I'm surprised they didn't take this further. Take a look at the Medusa. If you read the Medusa stat block, it says make a saving throw to avoid being petrified. If you roll only up to 5 or more, if you fail it by 5 or more, you are like restrained, and if you fail it more than that, then you are petrified. It has a variable outcome to being turned into stone. I would have taken that and run with it more. Like, oh, you go to pick the lock. Well, you need to roll. If you roll from 1 to 5 over, yeah, you pick the lock, but something happens. If you roll above that, like I would do a +5, +10, -5, -10, and make that the complication part of the game of a D20 system. It's very easy to do variable successes and failures in Dungeons and Dragons by just doing +5, +10, -5, -10. Meaning up to +5 or -5 is mixed. Up to +10 or -10 is a complete success or complete failure, and then beyond that you could have crits, like Pathfinder does crits, I believe, at +10, -10. Avatar Legends. Let me see if I can find it. Because and here's what I wanted to find out. How many people backed the game? It won't. It's I'm on Kickstarter, and it's not coming up on Kickstarter. If it was on, pretty sure it was on Kickstarter, and it's not coming up. Avatar. Nope. It's too far out of date. But I wanted to find. Okay, so my point of contention was I wanted to find out if how many people backed it versus how much money people spent on it. Mufa says Sanderson has the #1 and #3 most funded Kickstarters now. I think #1 most funded tabletop RPG and the #3 most funded Kickstarter overall in history. No, I hear you, Tony. Yeah, I'm sorry. If you guys haven't noticed, I tend not to post your comments below if there's like little mistakes in there, usually because of self-correction or you're on your phone or you're busy or something like that. I have no desire to embarrass any of you for any reason. I know what you're saying, so yeah, but we all know what the hell you're talking about, so you're fine. Yeah, the world building seems a bit more accessible via the games versus the novels. And if according to the Kickstarter for the Cosmere, there's going to be a world building book, not a world book and a hard gaming book. So let's go back to here before we get out of here. Let me hit back this project, and I'm going to show you. Oh no. Let me go back. Sorry. Let me see if I can page down. Let's page down here and show you the various books. Okay, so for example, here in this, for example, one of the books is going to be the Stormlight World Guide. This isn't the tabletop RPG. This is like a coffee table book for the world. So here it says, step into the world of Roshar in this beautifully illustrated 224-page hardcover book. This guide to the history, cultures, and key figures of the Stormlight Archive is also the first official art book for the series. It's a must-have whether you're new to the setting or a long-time reader eager for new canonical details. So, I mean, yes, you could probably pass this book around to your players, like, hey, this is what the world's about. Maybe it might give away some secrets, but probably not too many. Even if they know the secrets, who the fuck cares, right? But this is the world guide, and then there's the handbook. The Stormlight Handbook is the 336-page hardcover book, the first core rule book for the Cosmere RPG. It includes all the rules that every player or GM needs to build characters' adventures in the world of Roshar. So that's why I'm gonna let me page back up here. That's why you see multiple books, multiple Mistborn books, and multiple Stormlight books. I believe it's Adventure, Guide, Handbook is how they're separating it. So, yep, and then we'll let you guys go. It's funny. Yeah, you. Yeah, I do. I am both reading the chat. I try not to have too much dead space, so I read the chat. Luckily, I use Restream because it's very simple and it combines YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook together into one chat, which sometimes will triple the speed. So I'll slow the chat down and I'm reading the chat at the same time, continuing the subject matter that I'm talking about, so that if someone's listening, because technically this is technically a podcast, even though I'm visually attuned. So yes, brevity and all that kind of stuff helps as well. So at the same time I'm talking, I'm also reading, which is a little difficult, but I've had enough practice over the years to get it right. Um, yeah, absolutely. Princess Brawlhammer's a great comment here. I hope it's able to show. Mufa, I agree with you before I get to Princess's comment here. It says, I am sure there are a lot of backers that have never played an RPG before. And I'm actually, in a weird way, I'm excited to see the people who have never played RPGs before join the community, because they're going to bring a different type of energy. And a lot of these people are, let's be honest, they're geeky too. And they're nerdy. They're reading fantasy and sci-fi books from Brandon Sanderson. I mean, they're our core audience, right? Now it's up to us to like embrace them a little bit and go, hey, we're not that evil. We're not like the Star Wars fandom, right? Even though we can be pretty harsh in our own fandom, right? But I also am I because many of the people who've never played an RPG before may join us, and Brandon Sanderson's design group and himself wants the game to make you feel like you're a character in one of his novels. And I'm sure he complicates the lives of the people in the novels. See how I hard segued back into the subject we were talking about. These new people are going to be used to, oh, yeah, I succeeded, but then my life got complicated. They're not going to know. They're not going to know what pass fail systems are. They're just going to go, oh yeah, of course that makes sense, because in a book or a novel or anime or a video game or something, yeah, it complicates some things. So P's comment says, with the kind of money he has on this, he could easily make those 4 books, paying Koval rates to devs and artists, yep, and still have money to set up an Onyx Path situation for expanding them out with new Kickstarters. 14 mil and the amount of people his name is going to draw is enough to set up a dynasty in tabletop games. Let me see if I can read a comment here. If you guys are not familiar with this. Pledge levels. Hold on. He says it a couple times. Oh, here it is. This is a living RPG that will grow as Brandon Sanderson expands the universe of Cosmere novels, designed to tell standalone stories in each setting or sweeping world hopper campaigns that move between different planets. Um, in other words, you're right. He's already made this an industry. As he writes new books, he's going to put out new role playing game books, new world books. Probably, um, he will be able to gather the best artists to engender a feedback loop. Oh, I want to know when the next game is coming out. Oh, I want to know when the next release is coming out, the next novel is coming out, the next world primer. Um, yeah, each. So, for those who don't know, and I just found this out, guys, that the Cosmere is his entire world, his universe. Mistborn and Stormlight are things that happen in his worlds, but he has different worlds in the Cosmere, and he has different ages in his Cosmere universe. So he not only has he going through time, he's going through space. And so different he can make up new planets and different places for people to visit that have new characters, new um 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 flavor, new things that he can add to this of people who are already fans. So he's already thought about this. Crazy, crazy. So you are absolutely right there, Brawhammer. Negative spaces. I think a lot of things people have disagreements with D&D are things that are put on the DM to figure out. For example, fail forward, partial fails, and exploration mechanics is another big one. I absolutely agree with you. And making these mechanical, making these features mechanical, or no, let me take that back. Making these huge games, Draw Steel from MCDM, Daggerheart from Critical Role, Cosmere from Brandon Sanderson, making these things. I don't know if Draw Steel has this in the game, but these big creators who are creating variable outcomes as standard in their games. And mind you, Cosmere says you, it only happens on a one roll of a one, roll of a 20, or if you want to raise the stakes. So even in the game, it's going to happen 10% of the time if you roll a 1 or a 20 for every person that rolls the d20. You keep rolling it, it's going to happen more and more and more and more. So let alone the idea that, hey, I want to roll the dice and I want you to roll with raising the stakes, which is basically the opportunity die. uh, I wonder if I don't just wonder, I think it's going to become the norm. And even in past fail games like Dungeons and Dragons, I think incorporating, let me get to the opportunity part here. I mean, sorry, here it is, mechanics. Um, and the plot die. There we go. The I think this will become the norm. And I think in, like you're talking about, like exploration and fail forward and partial fails and success with complication will become a normal language for us. And with new people coming in, that will be their normal language. And yeah, I can see it becoming the norm. Now, for good or bad, I think you might have different outcomes depending on which table. Some people who are just like beer and pretzel and ridiculous, their um, opportunities and complications might be obnoxiously gonzo, whereas those who take it a lot more seriously might make these very much story element and storytelling, right? Like very into, no, I want to wrap this opportunity or complication around my character's backstory or inner turmoil or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, with all these games coming out, this may well be the era of the mid-tier dev studio. Ooh, we could have a good 5 to 6 Paizo-sized companies running around by 2028. I'm not going to disagree with you. The It's funny because, and before I get out of here, I'm just going to say this because I know I'm holding you guys far too long. Um, I will end it on this one here. I'll end it on this. Oops, didn't mean to do it this way. I'll end it on this. Um, Paizo-sized companies happen because it used to be Dungeons and Dragons trademark. you know, WotC was the pinnacle of where we would end up. So all of us, yeah, hey, oh, thank you. Um, so all of us that were playing role playing games, we play our games, then we world build, then we want to be small pub producing small things, then we get hired to do bigger things, then we make our own role playing games. We do the and you get bigger and bigger and bigger. You get noticed. You have a podcast. You get and then guess who hires you? Dungeons and Dragons. But oops, shit. Who wants to work from them now? Why do I hear crickets? Hello, anybody? Why is no one raising their hands? But like like um like PB says right here, who's going to want to work for Brandon Sanderson or MCDM or right? Exactly. Yeah, I'm good. No, thank you. To get fired? How many brilliant people work for them? Brilliant people got fired. How many brilliant people got railroaded, funneled into a, oh, we know you're good at making role playing games, but that's not what we really want you to do. What we want you to do is put out bullshit and hurry it up and make sure the page count is low. Uh, Spelljammer without airship battle rules, really, really, really. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, let's bring on a competition. The creatives, artwork, writing, layout, adventure design, third party materials, mechanics. Hell, YouTubers basing their whole channels on Cosmere, Draw Steel, Daggerheart are they're going to rise to the top, and those creators, whether they like it or not, are going to go, oh, you want to make my channel official and bring me into the fold? You James Inchicasso is a perfect example of a guy who's doing like podcasts and doing creating here and there and being a freelancer. And then Matt Colville was like, no, dude, I'm gonna hire you permanently. Like, this is gonna be your job. And oh, guess what? I'm also gonna pay you well, right? Yeah, that's what happens. And I think these are going to be I think ultimately these will be the places where our greatest and brightest and most popular are going to go, or they're going to make their own thing on the side. It'll just be more competition. And again, our greatest, our brightest, and stuff will go there. So, one of these days, I hope I get there. When I retire in like 3 years, I hope to be there as well. I'm an old dude, but I can throw my hand in the pot just a little bit, right? So, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you for spending your valuable time. I really appreciate it. I've held you far too long. Everyone, have a great weekend. We'll talk about this stuff going forward. If you have any problems, questions, comments, a situation came up and you're like, all that kind of stuff. No, Tony, thank you. I really appreciate it. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much. We'll talk next week about this thing daily, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, at least on my side of the world. If you're across the pond, I'm glad you have a better time frame for this. Have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. Bye.